What is going on, guys? This video had to happen. I am going to clear all the misconception about one of the worst bicep exercises out there, and that is the waiter curl. I will take a look at Jeff's video and give you the reasons why you should not do this exercise, and hopefully at the end of the video it will shed some lights on how you can make your bicep training even better. So let's start the class.
Guys, we're talking about building bicep peaks.
And this is the first. People believe that the biceps peak is an actual peak, when in fact it's nothing else but the belly of the muscle. And to increase the size of this belly, you need to train the biceps at its preferred position, and that's going to be the mid-range. We call this regional hypertrophy, and you can achieve that by doing regular standing biceps curl and seated dumbbell biceps curl or standing dumbbell biceps curl. And only because it's going to train the muscle at the mid-range. And it's called mid-range because the hardest part of the exercise what you have to overcome is going to be at the mid-range, which is going to be when your arm is closing 90 degrees. That's when gravity is going to be perpendicular to the muscle running. Knowing all of these, you should probably guess what's going to happen now.
I actually have covered on this channel before something called the master tip and the value of keeping your wrist out of it, bent back as you curl up to negate some of the extra forearm contribution of the curl.
Here is the thing. There is no forearm contribution. Your forearm is stabilizing your wrist by keeping it aligned with your lower arm. It doesn't contribute to elbow flexion. In fact, when your arm is supinated, your biceps contributes to forearm flexion. You don't need to keep your wrist down because your forearm is literally not going to take away anything from your biceps. In fact, the biceps is going to take away something from your forearm. And I want people to understand that because I get questions all the time like, oh, my wrist hurts when I'm keeping it down performing the biceps curl. What should I do? Well, don't keep your wrist down. It's problem solved. It is only stabilizing. You don't need to do that when you are training your biceps. Your biceps is not attaching to your wrist. You're not taking away anything with doing that. Just like your forearm is not going to do elbow flexion. So it can't contribute to your biceps training. Your forearm does nothing for bending your elbow. So this master tip is indeed worthless when you are training your biceps. I'm sorry.
Up here, one of the benefits we're getting is we're getting some good long head of the biceps because the arms are staying close.
Actually no, the short head of the biceps does some weak arm adduction. So therefore if you keep your arm relatively close to each other, you're going to bias the short head of the biceps. And he is right, the long head of the biceps will give you that peak because its muscle belly is looking up, while the short head of the biceps muscle belly is looking more down to the side. So in fact, if you want to bias it, and I explained this whole biasing thing when it's like both of them are working, if you bias the short head by getting your arm closer to each other, then the short head is going to do more. And if you turn your arm relative out to the side or keep it in line with your shoulder, there's going to be long head bias. The long head is going to do a bit more. So keeping your arm closer to each other, that's going to bias your short head.
It's an effective exercise to place the tension on the biceps and all on the biceps in the position that they can benefit the most, especially when it comes to...
This is literally the only 7 seconds where he's spot on. Biceps benefit the most at the mid-range in both concentric, because it can generate the most force, and in eccentric as well, because the biceps doesn't benefit from stretch-mediated hypertrophy. So going into a really stretched position where you keep your arm back, lean back, and trying to stretch your biceps, it is not going to benefit from that, or at least there is not going to be extra growth. So training it at the mid position is indeed right, how we said it. It is going to be the most beneficial part of the training. So all of this is just regional hypertrophy. If you train the mid-range when you're like sitting upright, that's going to train the muscle belly, so the peak what you want to get. If you do a preacher curl, that's going to train the biceps closer to the elbow joint. If you do a drag curl or an incline seated biceps curl, that's going to train the muscle what's closer to the shoulder joint. So that's regional hypertrophy. And also variation so you're not bored. But to train your biceps the most effectively it's going to be the mid-range. But now comes the fun part. Because this exercise, the waiter curl, is still a dog shit. And here is why. Your body doesn't see the exercise. it only perceives mechanical tension. And because of that, your progressive overload options are going to be quite limited. I can biceps curl an 80 kg dumbbell per side, or maybe 20 for a good 5 reps. But to experience the same amount of tension, I will have to lift a 40 kg dumbbell with this waiter curl. And as you can see, just holding the dumbbell is already a problem. And you know that for a good hypertrophy exercise, you need stability, progressive overload, and to train the muscle well. Now this is not a stable exercise because holding the dumbbell is already difficult. Progressive overload, as I said before, is going to be limited. Not to mention, curling the dumbbell is awkward as fuck. And it doesn't matter what you feel, your biceps or the exercises, they don't care about your feelings. You can apply mind-muscle connection, but applying mind-muscle connection and getting closer to failure is going to result in a far better hypertrophy other than doing it with a really light dumbbell and just focusing on mind-muscle connection, never getting close to failure. So this exercise will fail the stable and the progressive overload component of a good hypertrophy exercise, making it a super bad, if not one of the worst exercises out there for your biceps. Doing a regular barbell or a dumbbell curl will provide you far better results, given you can take it close to failure and you don't mess up your form and execution. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, make sure to like, subscribe, comment for the algorithm, and if you need help with your training, I'll leave a link in the description. Talk to you soon.